Halifax.
Hello and welcome to the Thursday, or as we like to call it around here, the Friday Eve edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand. A wet day out there today. That's welcome for many, I can tell you, but particularly those who are on the lake major water supply. Of course, yesterday, Halifax Water on this program announcing that they would be changing the voluntary water restrictions for those on the lake major water supply to mandatory restrictions. Those are underway. Now, I'm not sure if all of this rain that we're getting today will tip the scales, but any little bit will help. Now, I, like most of you, watched the events at that university campus in Utah yesterday. Charlie Kirk, conservative activist, social media influencer, gunned down at that rally yesterday. This is a senseless tragedy. Now, I didn't share some of the views of Charlie Kirk, but to take someone's life over the difference of opinion is nothing but nonsensical. Exchange of opinion, I think, even if it's vigorous, is paramount to the way that we live. We're living in dark times, I think, if this type of political violence becomes normalized. We've seen a number of different instances of it. We saw an assassination attempt on Donald Trump twice. We saw political leaders in Minnesota gunned down in their home. One state senator and her husband and dog died. Another state senator and his wife shot a number of times, but survived. And then yesterday we saw those haunting images of that rally in Utah, and here we go again. We're losing the ability, my belief is that we're losing the ability to have discussions about things. Now, let's hope that the person that did this gets caught. We get some answers. Violence, everybody, it just never solves anything. Now, there is a reason I remind you to be kind to one another at the end of every show, and that's why. We'll open up the lines after 11 o'clock today on this or whatever it is that you want to talk about. It is certainly dark times, and let's not forget, and let's not go any further without remembering that today is also a very somber anniversary. This is the anniversary of the September 11th attacks in New York City at the Pentagon and in that field in Pennsylvania, over Pennsylvania, I suppose. And I was, prepping for that yesterday when this story about Charlie Kirk broke. So I just don't want that to fall off the radar, an important anniversary. And whenever I think back on September 11th, and I know many of you do as well, I remember the tragedy, of course, and the loss of life, of course, and the way that the world changed, of course. But I also remember the maritime and Atlantic Canada hospitality that shone through that tragic event. Remember the airplanes that landed here? Remember the airplanes that landed all over the Maritimes because the airspace in New York was closed down? People opening up their homes, letting people sleep on their couches and in their basements while they waited to get their travel connections back. It put a big, bright star on how great Atlantic Canada is. And that is one of the forever memories that I'll have of September 11th. So lots to talk about today. I hope that you can stick around and join us here after 11. And we'll open up the phone lines to talk about these items or whatever it is that's on your mind. Got a release in the lead up to the show this morning from the Dalhousie Faculty Association. That labor situation, of course, at Dalhousie continues. It reads, Dalhousie President Kim Brooks has asked the DFA, that's the Dalhousie Faculty Association, to share the Board of Governors' latest offer with DFA membership. The offer was shared via email with members late last night. The quote here from the president of DFA, Dave Westwood, says the board continues to bargain in public. While this latest offer was not made through proper channels, it did not reflect the full breadth of discussions that have taken place between the two sides. We nevertheless decided to share it with our members. Very pleased on a very busy day to welcome into the program today on the telephone the president of the Dalhousie Faculty Association, and he's Dave Westwood. Dave, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks, Dan. Nice to chat with you.
I'm glad you're able to spend a few minutes with us today. So tell me a little bit about how this latest turn all folded out for you. There was discussions last week. There was discussions on Monday. Then we were told that those conciliated talks ended and that no new discussions were in the offing. And all of a sudden we see this. What happened? What changed?
So you summarized how this week has played out, and Monday and Tuesday we were spent back at the table, finally, in conciliation to try to resolve our differences, which was very productive. We were under a media blackout by joint agreement to try to facilitate open and transparent communication at the table, which was quite effective. We made good progress for the first time in about a month, I would say. And yes, the message that came out at the end of the day Tuesday was conciliation was called to an end. No deal had been reached and no dates had been scheduled. It was a very vague release and upset a lot of people, students, and our members were quite concerned to know, well, is this any closer to a resolution or are we further apart? And so it was true. No further dates were scheduled. We anticipated there would be further conversations, but we couldn't say that. And so we met as our bargaining team on the Wednesday to talk about next steps. And then around 4 o'clock yesterday, I received the latest email offer from the board, which was a sort of take it or leave it kind of offer with the indication that we were meant to take it to our members as a final resolution. And so that's sort of what happened. And then, what's coming next, I guess we could talk about next.
Yeah, that is certainly on the list of questions, Dave. But more importantly, if I remember correctly, and I do stand to be corrected here, when you held the strike vote, when the union held their strike vote, that was on the last and final offer from the Board of Governors. Am I correct?
That's right. So we'd had a sort of day 14 conciliation meeting back on August 11th, which was the day before a strike or lockout could have happened.
Right.
And the board made an offer and said, bring it to the members. We said, it's not an offer we recommend, but we will do that. And so we started an e-vote back that week. The vote concluded on August 22nd, and it was a resounding rejection of that offer from the board. And in the meantime, 2 days prior to the ending of our vote, the lockout had been initiated by the board. So, blocked all our access to email, locked the doors, stopped paying us, and we've been in a lockout ever since. And there really haven't been any conversations since that time up until this week. We've been pushing to come back to open bargaining at the table to find a way forward, and there have been some kind of inappropriate communications along the way. We had to file some bargaining complaints, which was unfortunate. And anyway, so nothing productive happened until this week. And finally, we were making good progress. And then it sort of ground to a halt, as I said, on Tuesday. And the latest thing was this sort of, I guess, latest final offer. I keep hearing the term final, but nothing ever seems to be final.
Right.
And so what we've done since is we've agreed to share the offer with our members through email, as well as our final offer from conciliation this week, so members can see how much progress has been made, but still where the differences lie. And we're having 2 sort of town hall meetings this afternoon with our members to explain what's going on and to talk about next steps. So I should also mention, we did invite the board back to the table this morning at 9 a.m. to continue negotiations, but they declined.
Fair. Dave, was there a significant change in this latest final offer from the first one, and does it address your concerns? And I guess the important question is, are you going to put this to the membership for another vote?
Well, yeah, we've come a long way since we initially rejected back in August. There's been considerable progress all this week. As I said, we made a lot of headway. I mean, these are the kinds of negotiations that should have taken place back in July, but never did. So finally, we're getting close to a place where there's a few issues outstanding, but I will say, I think we are fairly close to an agreement. We're in that last sort of 100 meters, and we need to close and make some compromises each side on a few more issues, and I think we could probably have a deal. It's not currently something we can recommend to our members. The problem with the vote, though, it's an interesting question, and I don't think the board has fully appreciated that the major sticking point right now is actually not the contract. It's the return to work protocol.
Right.
Because the lockout happened 2 weeks before the term began, there's a 2-week amount of time of class preparation that's been lost and needs to be replaced. And this is an issue that the board has continued to ignore. And treat as though it's not a serious problem, but it is a major problem, because even if we did vote on this deal today and our members accepted it, we need 2 weeks of time to get classes and labs ready to start the term. So even today, there's still a 2-week delay in classes before they're going to begin. And the terms of the return to work need to be negotiated. And there's been zero conversation with the board about that. And it is the biggest sticking point right now in discussions.
So with that 2 weeks needed to get ready to go back to class, even if, like you said, if it happened today, if the vote was done today, which we know it's not going to be done today, but if it was, 2 weeks from now, you would be able to get back to work. How does that put this current semester in jeopardy because of the length of time that's left?
It's becoming a real risk. I think a lot of our members are starting to look at each other and say, you know, even if this deal was resolved, we still have a 2-week gap. Well, we've already lost almost 2 weeks of classes already, and there's at least 2 more weeks likely to be lost. That's a month out of a 3-month term. So yeah, there is a real threat now. And I think students and their parents, you know, certainly have been emailing me. I hope they're emailing the president of the university as well and say, how could you not see this coming? Like, when you chose to lock people out 2 weeks before the term, everybody in the world warned them that this is precisely what would happen, and they ignored it. And here we are in a huge mess. Nobody knows when the term is going to get underway, and I feel awful for students because I can't give them any clarity either. It's going to be a significant length of time, even if we resolve this, and we haven't even yet resolved it yet. So it is a major, major problem.
Dave, in your release this morning, you say that the board continues to misrepresent their financial situation. Can you give me a little bit more on that? Why do you say that?
I say that because they're hung up on talking about their projected operating deficit over the next 3 years, which in their words is a $75 million problem, and maybe it is. But the fact is that problem didn't come from nowhere, right? The deficit is created because of choices that are made about where to prioritize spending money. When you make budgets, you need to plan for the most important aspect of your business, which at a university is providing fair wages to your academic staff. So when they say they're in this situation, that's because of bad planning. And there are choices that have been made and could be made to address this situation. They could choose to spend in different ways. I mean, they prioritize building projects at a time where they don't have the money to support them. That was a bad decision, and we need to own that. There's been $55 million operating surplus last year. Where did that go? $750 million capital fundraising campaign underway. Like, how is that going to be used to address this problem right here, right now? So, you know, the board likes to say things like there's no money, but what they aren't saying is that, and it's because of the bad choices that we made, and they need to make better choices.
David, we're going to have a conversation right after the break here with the student union. They're calling for some tuition rebates because they're unable to go to class. Your thoughts on that? Should the university pony up the money that essentially has already been lost?
Yes, they should. And yes, I think they're going to have to. I was at the student tuition rally yesterday with pride with our fellow students from the Dalhousie Student Union. They've been supportive of us, and we support them as well. They've been paying for something that they're not receiving, and that's not on. The university needs to refund their tuition for every week lost, and we support that 100%.
Dave, last question before I let you go. I know you're busy. If the phone rings right now and the board says, okay, we're willing to go back to the table, will you meet them?
Yes, we invited them to come back at 9 a.m. and they refused. So we're ready to meet and get this done. I'm not convinced they are.
David, appreciate it, sir.
Okay, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Dalhousie Faculty Association. A new final offer has been emailed, which feels weird to me. But anyway, has been emailed to the union. That now before the union members. But that 2-week thing that's got to be scary. Right? If the dispute, and it won't end today, but if the dispute does end today, it'll be 2 weeks before the professors are able to get back into the classrooms by the time they get their prep work done because of the timing of this lockout. I know there'll be a lot of students out there worried that this semester is going to be a wash. And we're going to find out what that means because after we take the break, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to sit down and have a conversation with Maren Mealey. She is the president of the Dalhousie Student Union. And we'll continue our focus on the labor dispute at the university down there in the South End. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand, back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. Hope you're having a fantastic Thursday as the weekend is almost here. We're going to continue our focus this half hour on the ongoing labor situation down there at Dalhousie University. Now, we should have been talking to our next guest this week or maybe last about some of the really good things that happen when a new year starts, right? Orientation and, back to school and athletics and all of that stuff and economic impact and all of the things that have become traditional with back to school. But instead, this is, I think, the second, maybe even the third time that we've had a discussion with the president of the Dalhousie Student Union about no classes and a labor disruption. Very pleased to welcome to the program Maren Mealey. Maren, how are you?
I'm all right. How about you?
Good. You guys had a big rally down there yesterday. Tell me what that was all about.
Yeah, yesterday we had a rally specifically with a focus on students asking Dalhousie University to give tuition compensation equivalent to class time lost. And so we saw an incredible turnout of students and then also a lovely show of faculty as well, who marched down to the Henry Hicks, the administration building at Dal, and demanded tuition compensation because students are now missing out on class time and still expected to pay the full amount, and we don't think that's acceptable.
I think there's many out there listening to us today, Maren, that agree with you. It feels like, you've, and I'm not a lawyer, I will state that out front, but it feels like you've entered into some kind of contract with the university by paying them a tuition that you're going to get some kind of return of a service, and you're just not getting that. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, students are investing in their education, right? We're the largest stakeholder in the university. We fund the university, and we deserve to have our investment in the university respected.
I think I know the answer to this next question, but did you get a response from the university about this rally and demand?
No, we have not, unfortunately. We'll continue, though. That doesn't mean that we won't let up the pressure. This will probably be an extended fight, but it's one that's worth doing because students are unhappy. We believe that there's an obligation on their end to uphold our quality of education. And when that's not happening, we shouldn't be paying for it.
Maren, I don't know if you heard our interview just before the break there with the president of the Faculty Association, who says even if the deal is signed today, if they get a new contract today, they need a 2-week lead up in order to get ready for classes. That's an additional 2 weeks that you won't be able to have access to your classrooms, and that could put the semester at jeopardy, couldn't it?
Yeah, so that's one of the things we were talking about yesterday was about 1 week is about 7% of a semester.
Right.
And so we're already down 7%, but we're looking at potentially having up to 21% of our semester gone. And so we were saying that means that's 21% of our tuition we shouldn't be paying, right? Because that's a huge chunk. And we're worried from the tuition side of things, but we're also worried about people are actually here not just to buy credits, but to get an education. And so the quality of learning will be impacted. And that's a huge concern for us as well.
Because they're going to have to jam all of that lost time into one semester. And if they can even do it, that'll be extremely intensive, won't it?
Yeah, I've been talking with some of the folks on the academic side of the university administration. And some of the conversations include things like dropping learning outcomes and trying to, instead of condense all of the class material into one semester, just dropping a few outcomes, but it depends on the program because that works for many programs, but also doesn't work for others. In a program like nursing or engineering, dropping content doesn't work quite as easily.
Right, and it's not like you can just skip over it. It's all pretty valuable, particularly if you're just getting that foundation done.
Yeah, exactly.
Maren, what are your members telling you? What are the students saying? They must all be frustrated, and the confusion must be just running rampant.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot. So frustration is the key one, right? Folks are frustrated that classes aren't happening. They're frustrated that they're expected to pay full tuition for the classes. I'm also hearing an overwhelming amount of support for faculty members. Folks are largely frustrated with the board and not directly with faculty. In fact, people have been very supportive. The other thing is, after a rally yesterday, I had a student come up to me who's a first-year student, and she said she knows 12 of her friends are leaving residence right now and flying back home because of the uncertainty. And so there's definitely a lot of folks who are either sitting around campus or they're in their dorm rooms and they don't know what to do. And many of them are, in fact, just leaving at this point. And so I was quite shocked from that conversation. I knew it was happening, but to hear one person who had a dozen friends leaving was quite shocking.
And that was going to be my next question. I know it's tough times, and what are students doing to pass the time. And there are some classes that are taught by part-time teachers and those kind of things, but the majority of the classes are canceled. What are students doing to pass the time? Are they just kind of hanging out?
Yeah, it depends a bit for the years or where people are at in their program, I find.
Right.
And so a lot of graduate students, many of them are able to continue the research, and so they're still doing that. For upper year undergraduate students, I think a lot of those folks are working right now. They are picking up more shifts than they would otherwise be. And so I'm hearing a lot of that as well. Some folks are trying to get ahead on readings if they've been given their readings list before the lockout. There's also first-year students, so that's one of the larger areas of concern is that you have a lot of first-year students who normally make friends during their classes, and so lots of friendships have been built throughout our orientation week events, but it's still hard. And so there's been daily programming within residences, which helps address some of that, but that's especially the population that's incredibly vulnerable here, right? Because you're already trying to get used to academic life, a university setting, and to have an incredibly large disruption right at the beginning of it has made that adjustment really hard for a lot of folks. I've been hearing a lot of anxiety, particularly in first-year students.
And that's all part of that university experience, right? So outside of the academic.
Yeah, and part of the university experience is the academics as well, right?
Right.
Like it's getting into your classes, and through those classes, many people build really amazing friendships, right? There's a lot outside of just learning that happens within an academic context, and so that's a big part that's being missed out on.
I still have friendships when I went to school, and those are more than 5 years ago, I'll say.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Word today, Maren, that the Board of Governors has sent a new final offer to DFA to share with their members. Any hope that you think that this is coming to an end soon?
Yeah, I mean, there has been about 17 hours of conciliation discussions that happened between Monday and Tuesday, so I hope that has built towards something that will be good for faculty members and good for students. I haven't been able to see that offer myself, and so I guess we'll see what it looks like, and if the DFA thinks that it's acceptable. I hope, of course, that we're approaching a resolution soon, but that resolution does have to be something that treats our educators with respect and dignity. So my hope is that that's what that offer contains and that we're able to see a resolution and start talking about back-to-work schedules soon, because that's really what we want to see happen.
Well, Maren, I hope the next time that you and I have a discussion, it's got some good news attached to it.
That would be awesome.
All right. I appreciate your time. I know you're busy.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That is Maren Mealey. She is the president of the Dalhousie Student Union. Held a rally yesterday. Those numbers could be quite large, right? If you followed the math that she laid out for us with regards to a number of school time. Excuse me, it's dry in here today. The amount of school time that's lost, plus this 2-week lead-up time, and if you break it down by percentage, and these students aren't getting what they are paying for. And I would hope that there would be something from the university for students to see some sort of either credit or rebate. And I know that the students and their parents are probably looking for some kind of resolution to this in the not-too-distant future. We're going to continue the program here. It is the Thursday edition of the program. You heard it here yesterday on our House Calls visit with Dr. Gillis. The province is changing some of the rules with regards to RSV vaccine. We'll talk about that in the next half hour and what it means for seniors with our good friend from CARP, Bill Van Gorder. But when we come back, well, that's tomorrow. Look at me looking at the wrong shit. Vanessa's yelling at me in my ear. There goes the perfect show, right? We're done. We're going to have a conversation with Kevin Russell about water rates. Lots going on. And what the refusal of Halifax Water to even listen to the landlords, the rental housing providers of Nova Scotia, their pitch for this, and what this 36 or whatever percent it is water rate increase. Kevin Russell will be joining us. And when we come back from the break, Heather Mulligan, a senior manager of advocacy at the Canadian Cancer Society, will be talking to us about protecting our kids from nicotine addiction. You're having a great day. I know I am, and the show will continue on the other side of it. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. Welcome back. I'm Dan Allstrand. It is the Thursday edition of the program, or as I said off the top, as we like to call it around here, the Friday Eve. We're getting close. We're getting there. It's almost the weekend. We spent the first half hour of the program today focusing on the ongoing labor situation at Dalhousie. And it is that time of year where kids are not only going to university, but they're back to school. And some of the things that can and do occur is that they might be carrying just more than some backpacks or even binders. They're increasingly bringing things like e-cigarettes and tobacco products into their classrooms, hallways, and bathrooms. Next generation of Atlantic Canadians are growing up in nicotine landscape that looks nothing like the ones that maybe I knew or their parents knew. And this article in the Chronicle Herald says this: we're serious about protecting the health and future of our youth. The provinces must step up. Very pleased to welcome to the program today to give us a little bit of context surrounding this, Senior Manager of Advocacy at the Canadian Cancer Society, Heather Mulligan. Heather, how are you?
I'm good. Good morning. How are you?
I am well. I was out yesterday in the downtown core. I had some work to do down there, and I was there a little bit early, so I took a stroll. I always like to get the feel of the vibe of what it's like down there when we're in the first couple weeks of back to school, at least at the university level, and it's like the whole downtown changes. It becomes just this different, vibrant place. But anyway, one of the things that I did note is that I noticed a lot of people vaping and smoking either tobacco or marijuana. It seems that, and maybe I don't have, this is anecdotal information, of course, but it seems like when the students come back, then we start to see more of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. In Nova Scotia, we have some of the highest rates of youth vaping in Canada. 33% of our high school students in grades 10 to 12 are vaping. That's compared to 24% nationally. More concerning is 55%, so more than half of our high school students have tried it at least once. And so that's not just a handful or a couple of youth experimenting. That's like a full-scale crisis that's happening in our schools and in our communities. And so we're looking for government action to protect our next generation of Nova Scotians. Because we know, what the harms are. We've seen it before with tobacco. We've just settled some lawsuits with the big tobacco companies to recover a portion of the cost of those harms. And so, we don't want to wait another 10, 15, 20 years and do the shoulda, woulda, coulda dance.
Right.
We need action now.
Heather, thinking back to my high school days and where I was going with what I saw last night is this isn't just new behavior that these kids are bringing to university. It's learned behavior, and likely have been doing it before they came here. When I was in high school, smoking was a thing. I mean, we had a smoking section right at the school. So, but most of the people that I hung out with, and I'll admit I was a smoker, have seen the consequences of that, and most of them are parents now, and their kids are in either high school or they're coming into university. And you'd think that we would be able to give some firsthand experience to our kids about the dangers of this, but based on those numbers and with the new technology of the vaping out there, it seems that maybe that message isn't getting through.
Well, I think it's because the landscape is shifting so dramatically and so quickly. And if you recall, Nova Scotia, we were a leader. Back in 2019, we were the first jurisdiction in Canada, the first province to introduce a flavor ban on flavored e-cigarette flavors in order to curb vaping use among young Nova Scotians, because we saw the coalition, the connection between flavored products and vaping use. And so, we haven't seen much action since, as the technology has evolved. It is no longer these large block brick kind of vaping devices and pods and juices. Those still are there, but now we're seeing more and more it's disposable vaping pods. Some products have up to 35,000 puffs in one device that it can be sold relatively cheap. They're getting more efficient in creating these products, and again, make no mistake, these products are made by the same people behind big tobacco and cigarettes. Many of the vaping companies and the products that are out there are distributed and manufactured by tobacco companies. And so this is just another way of getting youth addicted to nicotine We know that when youth start smoking earlier, the likelihood of them becoming lifelong users increases. And initiation of smoking usually occurs under the age of 18. And so we have a generation of young people in this province who are being exposed to nicotine, whether it be vapes, whether it be cigarettes, whether it be pouches, and it creates addictive behaviors and it can create significant harm.
I had a conversation with my nephew this past summer who was vaping, and I said, "Why are you doing that? It's dangerous." He's like, "No, Uncle Dan, it's not. It's not as dangerous as cigarettes." Is that a fallacy?
Safe. There is a misconception that safe, that vaping products are safer than cigarettes. Safer doesn't mean safe. Vaping still delivers nicotine, and especially among young people, that has serious health consequences in terms of their cardiovascular health, in terms of the effects that nicotine has in terms of their mental health and creating addiction. We also do not yet know the long-term health impacts of inhaling vapors. There's research coming actually here out of Halifax at Dalhousie University that has shown a coalition or a connection, I should say, between vaping use and impaired lung function. And so we're learning more and more every single day about the devastating impacts this could have. And again, we don't want to have to wait until 10, 15, 20 years. The burden of proof is undeniable. We know what's happening. And I think the important part here is a lot of the users of these products, these young people, start because of social sourcing, because they're social groups, and then it becomes an addiction, and they use it to relieve other things like addressing stress and mental health. And so, we need to see better intervention earlier. We need to see universal quit aids. Nova Scotians should be able to quit for free if they're smoking. We should join Prince Edward Island and British Columbia in offering universal access to cessation products and support so that no Nova Scotian, the cost isn't the barrier in stopping. But more importantly, there are legislative tools that we can implement, like increasing the purchase and sale age from 19 to 21 in order to really create an additional barrier of access to these products. And really start socializing a conversation around how do we ensure that young Nova Scotians who are in our middle schools and our high schools who are getting exposed and are getting their hands on these products, how can we better support them from not even starting? How do we support more Nova Scotians who are currently using products in quitting? And then how do we also take this once-in-a-generation settlement with big tobacco and properly investment and break the cycle of addiction and tobacco use in our province?
I'm seeing an uptake in the use of these nicotine pouches, the Zyn pouches or whatever they're being called. Again, that, back in the day it was, tobacco, right? You put tobacco in your cheek and it was gross and it dripped all, anyway, it was just disgusting. But it seems that these nicotine pouches are gaining in popularity. Is that a concern too?
That is a concern, and that's why we're really pleased to see the government of Canada take a bold step last year and making sure that those products are only available behind counter at pharmacies. If they are being advertised and they're being considered a quit aid to support people in quitting tobacco use, then they should be treated as such. And with the support and the guidance of a pharmacist and a quit team as well. And so, Government of Canada made that bold step of making sure that these products are only available in pharmacies. And we support and continue to support the government in making that decision.
Heather, if somebody wants some more information on this, obviously available on the Canadian Cancer Society website.
Yeah, there's information online, but more importantly, if anyone is thinking about quitting, there are fantastic supports and services. Certainly, you can call 811 and have a conversation. You can also, My Health NS app has lots of information around how to quit. We at the Cancer Society also have information as well. There's a lot out there, but really, Nova Scotia needs to make it easier for people to quit. And so part of that is also getting them the right information, but also having the right legislative tools and support. So we're certainly hoping that at least the province can make it easier for people to stop when they want to, and also for us to prevent initiation so that we don't have another generation addicted to nicotine.
Heather, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That is Heather Mulligan, Senior Manager of Advocacy at the Canadian Cancer society. When we come back, a return visit with the executive director of the Rental Housing Providers of Nova Scotia, a plan to maybe lessen the load of this planned 36% increase in water rates rejected by Halifax Water. Kevin Russell will be your guest when we return. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. Back in minutes.
Axe.
Welcome back to the program. Plenty of discussion as of late, particularly this week, about a proposal to see a 36.6, I think it is, percent increase in water rates in HRM. We had a discussion with Halifax Water yesterday asking why the need and why now. They say that prices were kept artificially low during the pandemic, and their reserves, all of the cash in the piggy bank, so to speak, is gone, and they need this increase in order to get back onto good financial footing. I know that a 36.6% increase not sitting well with some in the business community. We saw articles earlier this week that the boss over at the Oland Brewery said that with this water increase, coupled with all of the talk about an increase in electricity rates and high property taxes, that the brewery, which has been on that spot in the North End forever, may have to move out of town. And I know that, and we've had a conversation earlier about what this means to those, particularly I would suspect in the bigger high-rise buildings, but I would imagine each and every landlord is looking at this 36.6% increase in water rates and has some anxiety surrounding it. Very pleased to welcome back to the program today from the Rental Housing Providers Nova Scotia, Executive Director Kevin Russell. Kevin, how are you?
I'm well, Dan. How are you?
I'm good. I guess let's kind of set the table here for people that may not know what we're talking about. Obviously, a 36.6% increase in water rates will hit landlords large and small when it takes effect, if it takes effect.
Oh, no question, Dan. This is a serious issue for our industry, and not only our industry, but residential homeowners and small businesses. This is a rate shock that we can't handle, and so we've had discussions with Halifax Water, which we put forward a alternative plan and to have the rent increase spread, not the rent increase, the water rate increase spread over 5 years at 5% a year, and they declined to entertain that offer.
So your plan would have been to kind of spread this over a longer period rather than over 2 years.
That's correct, and have it capped at 5% per year. Yeah.
So then did they even entertain it? They just shut the door on you?
No, they didn't entertain it. They just said that this is the reasons why we need it, and you encapsulated that at the beginning of your program, and so this is where we're at today.
Have you reached out to the consumer advocate on this, Kevin?
We had a conversation with the consumer advocate, and they also declined to entertain the proposal that we put forward. They're going to move forward with an expert witness that they've called in to explain their position at the hearing.
Do we know who that is?
I don't have the name in front of me, but right. It's an expert in the field of water.
Okay, so Kevin, if we see it, 36.6% increase. Bottom line is that most, if not all, landlords and building owners won't eat that, for lack of a better term. So that eventually is going to be passed down to the tenant. Am I correct?
Yes, Dan. Just like any expense that we encounter, they flow back to the rents. That's how rents are set. Is based on your cost of operation. And so the water rate increase will eventually work its way back into the rent. Of course, we're operating under a rent cap of 5%, so it will take some time to work it back through, but it will eventually end up on the rent.
Yeah, that was my next question. With that 5% rate cap in place and through this year and next, as I understand it, it would be difficult to pass those increases on for the first couple of years from the landlord to the tenant, right?
Well, that's correct, and don't forget we're operating always on a year behind because renewals are once a year, so it will be some time before we can work the initial increases through. But don't forget, water is only one component. We're looking at 2 power rate increases next year and the year after. So these are starting to add up, and ultimately it's the end user, the consumer, that's being charged this. And this is the point that we'll be making at the hearing. That, well, what about the consumer? Where are the protections for them? We're living in very expensive times. And this kind of rate shock is not going to go down well on consumers. I mean, currently, right now in 2024, Halifax Water had a bad debt on non-payment of water bills of about $3 million. So we can see this rise significantly when there's a 36.6% increase on top of on top of what's going on today.
Kevin, with this big increase in all of the extra expenses that you laid out, the power rates and those kind of things, not necessarily thinking about the new or the bigger buildings in town, but the smaller landlord, with the inability to pass that along for at least 2 years while the rent cap is in place, are we in danger of losing rental space because the smaller landlords are just going to get out because they just don't want to deal with it anymore?
There's a lot of smaller landlords are considering that. In fact, we're losing our most affordable rental product in HRM, and that's the existing buildings for the main fact that they're becoming financially unsustainable to stay in business. So their properties are being sold, and we're talking duplexes, single family homes, triplexes and townhouses. So it's going to impact, and it may accelerate the selling of properties because of the financial conditions people find themselves in.
That being said, Kevin, with the rent cap in effect this year and next year, in 28, if that cap isn't there, are we potentially looking at a significant increase in rent across HRM?
Well, it's hard to say in a sense, because we would have to look at what the market is at the time. I mean, if there's we know there's 10,000 rental units coming to market over the next year, so that's going to be a factor, that there's going to be more supply, and so it's going to become very competitive again. Will there be increases? Of course, but I don't think they're not. Will be as high as people are envisioning they will be. That's why it's so important to get the supply fixed, so that there's a competitive market again, and then rents will stabilize, and so will rent increases.
Next steps for you, Kevin. Where do you go from here on this water issue?
Well, we have intervener status at the hearing. We plan to attend the hearing. We'll be presenting opening statements and closing statements, and we'll be following the other presentations very, very closely, and we'll see what unfolds there, and then we'll decide what our next steps will be. Kevin, keep us in the loop, okay? Sure will, Dan. It's an important topic, not just for rental housing providers, but for everybody in the city. So absolutely, we'll definitely stay in touch on it. All right, appreciate it, Kevin. Thank you. That is Kevin Russell, the Executive Director of the Rental Housing Providers of Nova Scotia. We're going to get ready to take a break here. Blake is going to join us at the top of the hour to update us on what's going on in the news. And on the other side of that, of course, it's time to open up those telephone lines. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. If something that's on your mind, something you want to talk about, that's the beauty of the open hour. We'll be here to take those calls for the next hour. Lots to discuss
Of course, the ongoing tragic situation in the United States. We can talk about water rates. We can talk about youth smoking, which is shocking to me. We can talk about the situation over at Dalhousie, or we can talk about whatever it is on your mind. Looking forward to having that conversation when we come back. You are listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. We're back in minutes.
Facts.
Welcome back to the Thursday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. It is now time for the open hour. The telephone lines are open. The number is 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255, toll free. Your chance to talk about whatever it is on your mind. Something that we discussed earlier in the program today, the ongoing situation with the labor unrest at the Dalhousie campus. It appears that the negotiations earlier this week may have made some ground, but now the latest salvo, it seems that the friction between the two sides isn't getting any better, and the students are left in the lurch here, asking now, I think legitimately, for a rebate on tuition. I mean, if you paid for a service and you didn't get it, you probably want your money back too, right? That might be something you want to talk about. Also, of course, the 36.6% increase in Halifax water rates over the next couple of years. Lots of concern over that, particularly from the landlords, particularly from small business. We heard from Oland Breweries earlier this week, who said that they may, with the power rates added on top of that, may have to leave the city. Oland Brewery's been there forever, right? That would be a massive loss for the north end of Halifax and for freight tram in general. Also, of course, the ongoing situation in the United States. I was just trying to catch up on the very latest. There was an FBI briefing on the tragic shooting death of Charlie Kirk, of course, the conservative activist, yesterday on a university campus in Utah. Police not relaying a whole lot new information on it. The suspect in the case remains at large. They did recover a firearm at the scene. They said it was a rifle, some suggesting it was a bolt-action rifle. Given the distances along those lines, that kind of makes sense. But that's about it. They say that they believe the suspect is college age and jumped from the building that they were perched on. I don't know if it was who it was at this point, and managed to blend in with the crowd and looks like may have gotten. There's a massive manhunt underway right now for that suspect, and lots of, I think, to say more questions than answers, at least at this point, with regards to that tragic event yesterday. And as I said off the top of the program, this kind of violence doesn't ever solve anything. If you didn't like somebody's opinion, that's fine. We have difference of opinion here on this program. But we can have a discussion, and solving things through violence is never going to be a solution. 902-405-6000 is the number. We begin with Tyler. Tyler, how are you?
Good, Dan. How are you?
Good. What's on your mind today, sir?
Oh, just going through the motions here. I was just wondering, are you a sports guy at all?
A little bit.
Yeah, you like a Leafs fan?
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Oh no! Oh no! How do you think they're going to do this year?
All depends on what Austin Matthews does.
Absolutely. And what do you think about Kirill Kaprizov turning down the biggest NHL contract ever?
If that's in fact true, because I'm reading that might not be entirely correct, but if he did, that wow, it's the contracts are getting out of hand. I think is where I land on that. It's getting silly.
Absolutely. I mean, top end talent should be paid, but yeah, the salaries are.
Won't be able to go to the game anymore, Tyler. Won't be able to afford a ticket.
Well, you already can.
Right.
Not in Toronto.
Right.
Not in Toronto. I mean, if it was $20 ticket night, that place would be an absolute ruckus. It would be like a Winnipeg Jets game or a Montreal game. It would be absolutely unbelievable.
And $1 hot dogs like they do at the Rogers Centre when they do the $1 hot dog night. That would be fun, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, it would. Absolutely. I mean, you know what? You know who puts on a really good show for a good price is the Mooseheads. I think everybody should go get their tickets now.
And if you can't get a ticket, you can listen to them right here on 95.7 News Radio all season. Gareth McDonald is back for another year, and we're looking forward to it.
There we go. We're plugging away here, Dan. Awesome. I called in originally to talk about the Charlie Kirk stuff. I'll touch on it very quickly. I don't want to take up too much time here because I can blab away. But, I was watching some of the news stuff, reading some of the stuff that's online. There's a lot I could touch on here, but I'll try to keep it short and sweet.
Yep.
This wasn't a shooting. This wasn't a misfiring or something like that. This was a political assassination, and people need to start realizing that. The rhetoric that's going on in some of the news agencies, the way that they're sort of describing this incident, they're saying, Charlie Kirk, right-wing activist and Trump ally. It's like, no, this is a political commentator who had healthy debates with people and was a father of two, and had a wife and two children. Like the swing is very. They're politicizing this even more, and I disagree with it. It's a terrible thing, and I hope that that all the truth of it comes out.
Right.
But,
and I think that's the important point, Tyler, is that we don't know all of the truth yet, right? We don't even know who the shooter is at this point.
Absolutely, but it's really just it's a big issue, but it's an idea of the grander thing that's going on right now with the divisiveness in people's political ideologies and stuff.
We're losing the ability to have a conversation with each other. We really are.
Absolutely, yeah,
right?
We absolutely are, and we really need to take this moment to not get angry if you're on one side or the other or something, and to take a look at this and say, hey, listen, let's start to look at what Charlie Kirk was trying to do, which was to have debate on either side.
Yeah, and if you agree or if you don't, that's your own choice and your own opinion. And let's just carry on, not escalate this into what we're seeing now. It's so tragic, and it feels just like we're in this really dark time right now, and I really don't like it.
Dan, you're not wrong, and you're right to have that kind of internal concern, and I think we all should, and we should take that not as a place, as a time to start hiding and to start keeping our views, to ourselves, for fear of repercussion. We need to be vocal about the things that we, have our opinions on and stuff, but we also need to recognize that the climate has changed, and we need to approach people softly and with care and with grace, but we also need to be vocal. Like, you cannot shut down what you think about things, because healthy debate is what gets us moving forward, and not having debate and not having dialogue is what brings us back.
And I will emphasize that point, Tyler, and being vocal about your opinions. I agree. I mean, that's what we do here, right? But that being said, also be open to listening to other opinions and not immediately yelling and screaming and shutting it down, because that creates that divisiveness that you're talking about, and that escalates, and then this kind of event happens, and we just can't normalize this kind of violence.
You're absolutely right, and I don't want to take up too much more time, but one thing I do want to touch on, too, is I think it's a mistake for Trump to be lowering all the federal flags to half-mast. I think that's going to create a bigger amount of divisiveness in the political spectrum. They're essentially making him into a martyr. I mean, I completely understand he was a great guy, but whether you agreed with him or not, but to be essentially making this into a federal matter, and so I don't agree with that. I think it's going to cause some big issues. I just really want to reiterate that everybody, whatever your opinion is, whatever your political ideology is, let's approach things in life with grace and with understanding, and knowing that I'm not right, you're not right, the truth is somewhere in the middle, and let's find it in a healthy way. And it's just really important, especially coming out of the most recent Canadian election and going into the next. There's a lot of divisiveness going on, and we just need to really take care of each other. Be kind to one another. I say it at the end of every show. You do, and I appreciate that very much. And you're doing a great job filling in for Todd. Appreciate it, Tyler. Have a good one, sir. You as well. 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000, or 1-877-801-8255. The open hour after the break. All right, welcome back. This is the Todd Veinotte Show. It's the Thursday edition of the open hour. The lines are open, 902-405-6000, or 1-877-801-8255. Let's go right back to the phones. We welcome Mike to the program. Mike, how are you?
Good, Dan, good. You know what? The nature of news is always kind of mostly negative. But, bad day today I mean, we lost Charlie yesterday. I agree with the last caller. You know, all this guy tried to do was just have an informative conversation with some young kids and get them to look at everything on both sides of the coin. And then we have 9/11, another massive tragedy. Like, not a great day in news. But to bring it home, we got this local stuff going on. You know, I don't know a lot about Halifax Water and their inner workings. Would you know, Dan, if any of these guys, CEOs and stuff, do they get bonuses and things like that?
To be honest, probably is accessible information. Don't know off the top of my head. What I do know is that four city councillors sit on that board of Halifax Water. So the city has a pretty significant say in what goes on there. Yeah.
And, you know, I look at that stuff and they, you know, I think one of the statements today on the radio was that, you know, they took a big hit during COVID and stuff like that. Well, you know, it's the same with the power company. It's just constant increases. And these guys in both organizations take no personal losses during all of this. They just keep coming back to the public. I mean, in a way, it's like the government. Every day you turn around, it seems like you got a new tax. Like, you know, I've heard it said many times that, you know, eventually the well runs dry, and I think it's pretty dry already.
Yeah, I hear you.
We're not just talking about water. Like, people are tapped. And, you know, like I said, these guys don't take any responsibility themselves to do cuts, you know, even if it means some wages. I'm pretty sure that Halifax Water and Nova Scotia Power. I had a cousin that he's retired now, worked for Nova Scotia Power, and he's sitting on a pretty nice pension. And, you know, like, there's just no personal loss to them whatsoever, it seems. Just go to the people and tell them we want more. And being a senior, Dan, and on a very fixed income, you know, I'm in an apartment, and you know, if these hits keep coming, my next move is heading to Canadian Tire and getting a tent and a sleeping bag, because, you know, it's just going to run me right out of being able to either that or start giving up cable and things like that are, I guess, considered luxuries today to be able to watch a TV. But anyway, buddy, that's kind of my spiel. I think the government maybe needs to step in and, you know, put it upon these guys to start taking some of their own cuts and looking after some business at home. All right. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Mike. Have a great day. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. My big concern about this Halifax water increase, and I touched on it earlier with Kevin Russell, is that this 36% increase over the next 2 years is going to hit during the rent cap, right? So the ability for the landlords, big and small, to pass this along to tenants like me, like Mike, is limited. But we don't know if that rent cap is going to continue past 2027. And if it doesn't, what's going to happen in 28? That's scary stuff. 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000, or 1-877-801-8255. Let's go to Dave. Dave, how are you?
Very good, thank you, Dan. Are you getting me?
I got you loud and clear, sir.
Perfect, yes. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah,
sure.
I just want to bring up the Charlie Kirk thing.
Yep.
The assassination really is what it was.
Yep.
And those poor students that were there, and I think there was hundreds at the time.
Thousands, from what I understand. It was something like 3,000. That's the last number I saw anyway.
And Charlie was one that would listen to the students, and he would have a rebuttal on what they had to say. So it was an open discussion, and I thought it was brilliant at times. And you could listen both sides of the argument. You really could. These were very educated students.
Right, no, absolutely.
Some were not, didn't do their homework. but he didn't literally make fools of them. But he had his opinion. I think he was a clean living man, to be quite honest with you. Dan, I'm not a religious man, but I think he was a clean living man and beautiful family and what have you. And it's just, it's gut-wrenching, to be honest with you. And just on a university, and of course we've seen so many shootings on these campuses, and
right.
It is dark times, Dan. I think you nailed it. It's very dark times. It's upsetting. Look at Trump. He got winged and very close to death, and we can't continue. And I say we as humanity, as being civil, we can't continue to go down this route. We just can't.
David, I think we can point a lot of fingers in a lot of different areas with regards to this, but I think the solution is that we have to just stop, take a breath, and remember that, yeah, I might not agree with everything that he said. I might not agree with everything that you say, David. It doesn't mean I don't listen to you, and we can't have a conversation. We've lost that ability, particularly when it comes to the realm of politics. It's either my way or I'm going to yell louder, and that is never going to fix anything. And I just worry that this is going to become normalized, and we're going to see this more often, and that would be just tragic.
You know, I have 3 sons that are young adults and just starting their lives. I got grandkids now and wonderful wives and daughter-in-laws, and I talked to them about this, and I just said, unfortunately, this is the time we're living in. It's not the first time that this will happen, and they're on the internet and they're online. And I said, get off that right away, because there's so much garbage out there, Dan, that just stirs up, shat, if you don't mind me saying. And we're just living in this world of, it just seems surreal in some ways. And I think you're right. I think, folks, we all have blinders. Many of us have blinders, and we just don't want to listen to the, our not opponents, but somebody who may be different in what your beliefs are.
Right.
And I think you're absolutely right. We need to open up even more now and embrace I love filtering through different things so I can come out with a half-decent view on things, to be honest with you. And I try my best, but it is littered with so many nasty things out there, Dan. And I will say one thing, listening to the radio with you and Todd, and this station is something that you won't see a whole lot. It's people that are on the ground, and I know it's the rant line, but I hear beautiful, wonderful opinions from everybody, including yourself, and I know you're somewhat neutral, but this is a rarity, Dan. This radio station is a rarity. This garbage that's out there on the internet and what have you, is very, very bad. And of course I'm on it, but you can filter what you're looking at. And there's a lot of vulnerable young minds out there, like these university students. What they witnessed is just horrific.
Right.
It really is. And my heart goes out to Charlie Kirk and his family. And rest in peace, my man. Thank you, Dan, for taking my call.
Dave, have a fantastic day. 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000. It really is, and I will caution everybody that we're still in the very early days of this. And just to very quickly give you how I learned about this yesterday, I was, as I mentioned earlier, I was downtown, I was doing some work, and I got out of there and looked at my phone, and I, holy my goodness, and then started reading it, and then like the amount of whatever Dave called it, that was already there as this was unfolding was incredible. So I just urge you to use the sources that you use. I'm not going to suggest that one over the other, but just make sure that you're getting real information. We don't know who this person was that shot Charlie Kirk. We know very little information about background, about ideology, about whatever. Just let the investigation take hold. Let's use good information as opposed to some of the absolute garbage, that Dave's words, that's floating around out there. That's my ask of you. Going to stop, take a break. We're going to get an update on the news, and when we come back, busy open line today, so we're going to get right back to the phones. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand. Back in minutes. We're back. This is the Thursday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. Busy lines today, so we'll try to get to as many callers as we can. There are, however, a few available. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. If you get a busy signal, keep trying as we continue the discussion this morning with Jordan. Jordan, how are you?
Hey, Dan. How's it going?
Good. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to say, appreciate you not, most people didn't come out and say anything really about him getting shot down there.
Him being Charlie Kirk you're referring to, correct?
Charlie Kirk, yeah. And if they did, they made a point to say that he's right-wing extremist, or not extremist, but right-wing activist and Trump supporter. And
well, he was, to be fair, he was throwing out Donald Trump ball caps before.
Matter.
No, I get it. But
it doesn't matter. There's a lot of things that people don't agree with on both sides. You don't
I get it.
Just go and shoot somebody. Right?
Absolutely agree with you, Jordan. But, I mean, to say that he's a Trump supporter isn't too far from the truth, is it?
I don't think it matters, though. Definitely not. No, he definitely is. But I just
he was at the inauguration
because so many people hate Trump that
I get it.
Well, he's a Trump supporter.
Jordan, I agree. I'm agreeing with you here, but I'm just saying that he was at the inauguration. He's a Trump supporter. That's a
100%.
fact.
I'm not denying that one bit. If that doesn't deserve, he should be shot for anything.
No,
right?
yeah, nobody deserves to be shot. Period.
Live stream, it feels like it's crazy. I can't believe this is the world we're living in, where if you disagree, then I guess. Yeah, he should just be considered a father, husband, and this and that, and that doesn't really. Yes, he is a Trump supporter, but that shouldn't make. It's almost like, well, he's a Trump supporter, so that's good to go.
No, I understand where you're going. Is that people may relate the fact that he's a Trump supporter so that this is okay, and we know that that's just absolutely not the case.
No, and I just appreciate there's some people out there celebrating it, right? Which I didn't agree with half the stuff he was saying at all, but I wouldn't want to wish death upon him. I mean,
no.
Kids now, they're 2 little daughters, and it's like, I don't know. It's just we're living in a weird time right now. So
I agree with you, Jordan, 100%.
Awesome, thank you.
Have a good one. 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000. I get where Jordan was going. I get that the right wing, the conservative advocates, and the Trump supporter. I get it. It doesn't make this right. It doesn't make this a reason for, and the death of anybody should never be celebrated. So I get where Jordan was going, but it's a well-known fact. I mean, he was at the inauguration. He was passing out Donald Trump "Make America Great" hats again at this event and many of the other events he's been at. Doesn't make it right, but he was. And Donald Trump called him tremendous, I think was the word he used. 902-405-6000, where are we here? Barry, how are you?
Not too bad. It's really unfortunate about the shooting. What's happened afterwards is even scarier. I mean, there's been, 2 Democrats murdered a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And then Governor Gresham Whitmer, who's a Democrat, they found out a conspiracy to have her murdered. But if you'd listened to Fox and Donald Trump last night, every time there's been a shooting, the president always comes out to calm the people. Last night, Mr. Trump blamed the radical left or Democrats for what happened. And on Truth Social, they're saying Democrats should be eradicated. When there was assassination, they don't even know who did it. This is not the way to handle a shooting. Every president, when there's been something like this, has asked for calm and say, this could be a crackpot who shot him. So to blame it as a Democratic trying to murder them because they're Republicans is not known, and it's a lie. Pam Bondi this morning came out and said, this is on the Democrats. And then the guy reminded her, they're always shooting us. The guy reminded her about the 2 Democrats that were shot. Then she said, and they try to kill President Trump. By the way, the man that shot President Trump was a Republican.
Right. So I think your point is, Barry, is that, Republican or Democrat or left wing or right wing aside, we have to get away from this. You're wrong, I'm right, and escalating into this kind of situation in violence is never good.
It is wrong.
Well, yeah, I get it, and I understand that, and I said the same thing with the president. Unless he knows something more than we don't know if this person is.
He's never seen this before.
Right.
Never has a president, when there's been something like this, has pulled this stunt to try to gain.
Right.
And Fox last night too. This is not the way to handle a shooting.
Fair point, Barry. Appreciate it. 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. And I will send that the caveat that I said just before the break to the President of the United States. Let's get fact before we start blaming people, right? We don't know who the shooter is. We don't know that person's ideology, if they have any at all. What we do know is that that person is loose in the community and is obviously dangerous, right? Let's welcome Don to the program. Don, how are you?
Oh, hi, Dan. How are you?
Good. What's on your mind?
Okay, I just want to make a comment. I heard Dave and other people talk about this fellow as being just a debater, and he was involved in healthy debating, and I couldn't disagree more with that comment. Spreading lies to ignorant people is not healthy.
Well, Don, I don't think I want to call a university student an ignorant person.
Young people, and generally, they are ignorant people.
And Don,
I don't want to spend my time to people. Spreading lies to people. Take out the word ignorant. Spreading lies to people is not a part of a healthy debate. Giving truthful comments and facts is healthy.
But Don, we know that one person's truth is another person's fallacy, correct?
No. So you believe, for example, that he actually believed that the 2020 election was rigged?
He does. He did. He believes it. That's his opinion.
No. Do you know he has a real niche going? He had a podcast, and he knew how to take advantage of the situation. He has a podcast. You have to act like people like Steve Bannon and that to make money in that. And he didn't believe in COVID. Have you read his Wikipedia page, Dan?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, he's a piece of work, to be honest.
So that makes this okay, Don? Because I hope you're not going down that road.
No, I'm not saying I don't justify
but you're relaying it that is because of his opinion that this happened.
No, I didn't say that. I'm just saying that people are trying to beatify the man and call him a martyr because he was involved in healthy debate. And he wasn't involved in health. Do you know yesterday, right before he was killed, do you know what the last thing he said was?
It was something to do with gang violence.
Somebody asked him, how many transgender people are mass murderers?
And what was his answer?
His comment was too many.
So one's too many, right? Isn't one too many?
What?
Isn't one too many?
You're trying to.
I'm not, Don. I am. What I'm trying to point out here, Don. Don.
He wasn't a nice
Don.
guy.
What I'm trying to point out here is that is his opinion. If you believe it, if you like it, that's up to you. What happened yesterday was he was shot, Don. He was shot yesterday because of his opinions, and that is 100% wrong every time.
I'm not suggesting it's right. I agree with you. All I'm saying is don't paint the man to be some sort of martyr or hero. Do you know what he said about the Second Amendment? He said the right to bear arms is worth some innocent people being shot. And I'm going to make a comment. I believe that his beliefs in that is anti-democratic and probably may lead to more things happening.
All right, Don, your opinion. I appreciate your call. No, I absolutely appreciate your call.
Be honest. That's all I'm saying.
Have a great day. 902-405-6000. You go down a dangerous route when you start doing that stuff. Well, he said this. And he said that. And he stood for this and he stood for that. Right? I understand it. And I said it, and I've said it 5 times already today. I don't agree with some of the things that Charlie Kirk said. I don't know how more clear I can be about that. Some of the callers today have said the very same thing. That doesn't make this right. That doesn't make taking somebody's life right. That's all I'm getting at. Let's welcome Dan to the program. Dan, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. What's on your mind?
Just a couple of things.
Your phone's ringing.
Yeah, that's my work phone, sorry.
We won't tell the boss you're on the radio, I promise.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's we should be thinking about all the 9/11 victims,
100%.
and all the heroes that day to start this. But
Absolutely.
I also wanted to talk about Charlie Kirk.
Sure.
I'm pretty disgusted and deranged, honestly, about this. This man was a son, a father, a husband, a man of God. Everybody's saying he's a political activist, which he was, but this was a man who spread the gospel and Jesus' teachings, and this is what he believed in. On my social media, like people I've gone to school with, I thought was kind of friends with, were celebrating this, posting about what he said about the Second Amendment right, suggesting he deserved to be shot because of that belief. This was a man who did not fear anybody who walked on this earth. He feared God, and he feared the ultimate punishment. I don't think he would come back from what he said. I think he would still stand by this today, shot and dead. He still believes that, I think, because ultimately he feared God and nobody on this earth, and that was his beliefs. I want to thank him for pushing me towards God and the thousands, probably almost close to 1 million people that he has pushed towards God. So that's what I have to say. Thank you very much for the time.
Have a good one. 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000. Again, 1-877-801-8255. You may not have agreed with anything that Charlie Cook said, stood for. It doesn't mean that this should be normalized, that this should be part of the vernacular. It is a dark, dark time when people who express an opinion lose their life. I don't think I can be any more clear than that. We're going to stop, take a break. The conversation will continue on the other side. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand. Back in minutes.
Axe.
Welcome back. Lots of discussion. This is certainly that's like I hit the post. It's like I knew what I was doing. Lots of discussion on this topic today. Of course, we'll take calls right up until the top of the hour. Couple of lines open if you want to get in and join the discussion. Of course, Charlie Kirk has been the topic of discussion today, but we can talk about whatever it is that is on your mind. I will welcome Jeremy to the program. Jeremy's going to switch things up on us here.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the glyphosate conversation that took place yesterday.
And thank you for the email. I read most of it, but I haven't really dug into it. It's been a bit busy today.
No worries. And as much as I'd like to comment on some of the things that are being said today, I will make one quick comment on Charlie Kirk. Nobody deserves to be assassinated or murdered for their personal or political views. I think
100%. I agree with you 100%.
We can all agree on that. I'll make some other comment another day. But I did want to go back to that yesterday because the previous caller to me yesterday said, why is there no reduction in the amount of pulp that he sees anecdotally being hauled out of the woods. And what I found was that it was because in 2020, Ian Rankin said, we're going to continue, even though the pulp mill is not operating anymore, we're going to continue exporting the same volume out of the woods and allow them to operate to keep the expertise in the province and to keep the woods industry going.
So where's it going, right? Jeremy? Are they shipping it to New Brunswick, or where is it being processed?
I don't know what their market was, but or at least if I did, I can't remember it from the article. But it was definitely it was a government initiative to keep that going, right? And then of course we had a change in government. And one of the things I did want to touch on again, glyphosate, it is definitely a exacerbating process for wildfire. It's not causing wildfire. That's being driven by climate change. But when you eliminate all the other competing species and leave just coniferous trees, you have a highly flammable and very dry.
If that's the case, Jeremy, and I'm not trying to be argumentative, I'm just curious. You've obviously dug into this more than I have. If that's the case, if this is such a bad situation, then why is it still legal?
Well, I mean, lots of things that are bad for society are still legal, right? You guys had somebody talking about big tobacco today, so that's maybe a discussion for another day. But what I wanted to get to some of the details of why I think it is. Okay, so the new Conservative government, they're not new anymore, but anyway, they came out with an initiative to look to industry in the pulp, or not the pulp industry, but they come up with an initiative to look for government buildings that can use wood for construction, that can use wood heat for homes.
Right.
Okay. So this was another push by this current government to say, okay, we want to keep the pulp industry moving and progressive and the pulp mill's gone, but let's see if we can find some other avenues for this market, right? Keep it in Nova Scotia. Yep. Okay, fair enough, right? And then lastly, just yesterday, the story broke that now this provincial government is looking at perhaps bidding on Northern Pulp's assets, right, in the bankruptcy procedure, or and one of their assets is a huge amount of Crown land that is harvestable for softwood, right?
Right, or recreational land, depending on how you look at it, but yes.
No, technically, a lot of it it may be owned by Crown, but it is specifically for the harvesting of timber for.
Did the province, and I'm not trying to fight with you here, but didn't the province, when they opened up the Bowater Mersey lands, didn't they open that up to public access so people could use it to hike and hunt and fish?
Some of it, but I think the majority of it was kept for pulp, and that was that was in 2012, I think, right?
I think that's when it was, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a previous NDP government. So this is not an unusual thing for the government to do, right? And it's not any. But I guess what I'm getting at now is, okay, the province has said we are looking for this product. We are going to create markets for it, and the government is going to initiate the creation of those markets by, like I said, wood heat, right, and sawmill logs for wood construction. So they have a vested interest in this politically now, because if it's successful for them, that's great, right? It's good for everybody, I suppose.
And again, Jeremy, you're smarter at this than I am, but do they not use hardwood trees for lumber, or is that a softwood, or is it both?
No, it's all softwood.
Okay.
So there's the market for them,
right?
And now, if they need this market to be filled, then in some ways I would think they do have a vested interest in spraying some of these woodlots with glyphosate to promote coniferous growth.
It's not the province that's spraying, is it? It's the companies that are spraying.
Well, it's private woodlots, and I would assume, and I don't know because I don't have that piece of information,
right.
But if the province owns Crown land that are being harvested by pulp harvesters, right, what are they going to do? They're going to follow best practice based on the information they're given by the pulp harvesters, because at the end of the day, it's a financial bottom line to spray with glyphosate, okay? And there's articles.
Well, you create these tree farms, right? Essentially, is what they become, right? It becomes all harvestable timber as opposed to wood that they can't use. That's how it was explained to me.
I can't comment on that, Dan, I have to say, but I think in looking into it a little deeper as I have, I don't think that your previous caller yesterday was completely off the mark when he said there may be. And this is where I get, sort of to thinking about it. The province has only said we are keeping secret the locations where we're spraying because we want to keep people who are operating there safe from, protesters. That was a line from the Minister of Environment, essentially. I'm paraphrasing there, right? But they haven't said, oh, by the way, we do actually have, a vested interest in making sure that the pulp industry continues to thrive here.
Well, I don't think it's any secret that the provincial government has been very open, saying that they want to, resources are, we're talking uranium mining, we're talking wind, we're talking, I would imagine pulp and paper industry. So I don't think that's much of a secret.
Exactly. Right. That's my point exactly. It's not a secret. We know they're pushing for industry, but don't give us a line saying we're keeping it secret because they want to keep people safe, when in actuality, they have skin in the game at this stage, as far as I'm concerned, from what I can see. It's not just about it's politically advantageous for them to make sure pulp and paper goes ahead, because if their initiative for wood heat and construction materials goes ahead, that's a win for them, right? So and I think more broadly, okay, fine. If you want to help to push the pulp and paper industry ahead, I'm not against industry. I'm not against progress and economic prosperity for everybody. I think it's a good thing, right? But if there is a real concern for all of a sudden creating wildfire hotbeds, right, potential wildfire hotbeds, if the locations where this was sprayed is kept secret, and then let's say 2 years down the road, we have the most massive wildfire that Nova Scotia's ever seen. Do we get to find out if that area was sprayed with glyphosate or not?
Good question,
Is that
Jeremy.
going to be kept secret from us?
Absolutely. Jeremy, hey, I appreciate it, man.
Cheers, buddy.
902-405-6000. Last word goes to David today. David, how are you?
Good morning, Dan.
It's on your mind.
It's me,
you've got about 45
guy.
seconds, so you got to go quick.
It's going to be very quick. Other than Vanessa working the dials, I'd like to take this time to thank you for all the good subjects that you had. I'm not trying to kiss ass or nothing.
It sounds like you are, but that's okay. I got it.
Yeah, and you always seem to do a great job at doing whatever it is you do.
David, appreciate it, sir. Good way to end the open hour.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
There's a number of people out there that will disagree with David, but hey, that's why we have discussion, and that's why we offer the option to share your opinion, and we try to I'll push back if something question. I will, but it doesn't mean I don't respect your opinion. And that's what I think the whole crux of this last hour has been, is that we have lost the ability to do that. And maybe one open hour at a time, we can just broaden everybody's horizon just a little bit. Thanks to everybody who picked up the phone, dialed the numbers, and joined the conversation. I truly appreciate it. The show isn't over. We got another hour to go yet. We're going to take a break for the news at noon. And when we come back, we'll have a conversation about what this water increase means for business. Of course, Oland Brewery's sending a pretty scary letter to the authorities that if this increase comes with these power rate increases and all that stuff, they may have to leave town. A conversation with the business professor that teaches right here in Halifax. Ed McHugh will be your guest. Fantastic open hour. I appreciate it, guys. We're back in minutes.
Facts.
All right, welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Allstrands. The show continues. That's twice. It's like I'm getting used to the music beds. Vanessa's laughing at me. Just very quickly want to send a thanks to Vanessa on the other side of the glass for navigating me through this show again today. She does a fantastic job out there. You don't not know half of the work that she does behind the glass to make this show sound the way that it does, and she deserves the biggest kudo that is available and possible. Laurels all over the place for Vanessa. We talked about the water rate increase and what it means to landlords and eventually to tenants, but they're not the only ones that will be impacted by said increase. Business will also be impacted by said increase, and will also have to deal with these proposed 2 years worth of power rate increases, should they be approved by the whatever the new name of the UARB is. Now, one longtime local business in the North End has said that, with all of this stuff happening, we might have to take a look at leaving the city. And if the Oland Brewery leaves the North End of Halifax that's been there forever, that would be an absolute shame, wouldn't it? Very pleased to welcome into the program to give us a little bit of perspective on what this means for business is business professor Ed McHugh. Ed, how are you?
I'm great, Dan. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, sir. I guess let's begin there. Businesses obviously have to deal with these kind of things all the time, but this really is a left-right, isn't it? There's water and power and nothing you can do about it.
This is, in a way, I'm glad that Oland has highlighted the issue here, because this is, in business, as you know, you do plans. You have a 1-year plan, a 2-year business plan. You might have a 3, and then after that you sort of have, a 5-year vision, because things change. So they already have their business plans set out, okay, for 25, 26, and 26, 27. Right. And nowhere in that planning, okay, is this expense, which would be, when you look at their income statement, I'm sure when you look at what's when you look at the cost of the ingredients, water has got to be a huge component for this company, okay? And the problem is, so far, what Halifax Water has done, and I can see what they're doing, they've only put out how it impacts the individual household. Now, you can take that number, and if you're Oland or even, an ice cube manufacturer, okay? Right. Your number, that number is not planned for, hasn't been planned for. And I'll go on for a second, then I'll stop. Sure. If you want to lose weight in life, okay, you either increase your output or you decrease your input. In business, you either increase your revenue or you decrease your expenses. It's really that simple, even though it's really hard to do. Easy to say, hard to do. So so now they've got this looming cost on coming up on their income statement, and then you go to the revenue side, and if you look at what's happened in the beer industry specifically in the last 20, 30 years, at one point, Labatt and Molson Canadian, or Molson and Moosehead, pretty much owned the beer market in Canada. The last 20 years has just seen such growth, right, of the craft brewers that, so go back to the revenue and expenses thing. They just can't go out and say, well, we need to sell more product because it's a highly competitive market right now. And we're used to moving product production around the world. And now, because of what's happened in the last 12 months in North America, right, because of the interprovincial trade barriers that are coming around, it's easier for a company like Labatt to say, that's way too expensive. We're just going to move that production to this plant. Boom, done.
Right. And in a better industrial environment, I will say, where they have stable water rates and power rates and taxes and those kind of things. Ed, we had a conversation last week about the power rates with, I think it was with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, who raised an interesting point, is that these power rate increases will happen over the next 5 years. They only released the first 2 years.
Right.
So there's that uncertainty. And as you mentioned, businesses like Oland and other big businesses and other big power users would be setting out a 2, 3, 5 year business plan. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, and then that's smart. As they say, if you don't have a plan or if you don't have a road, any path will take you there. In business, especially a business as sophisticated and the size of Oland, you have to have a plan. You've got to have a strategic plan. You've got to have a tactical plan, month by month, year by year. And so for this expense to come along, especially in the environment we've been in the last 2 years, where inflation's been settled a bit in the last few months, but inflation's been a big part. And you just got to look across the city right now, and you're seeing labor unrest, for example, at Dalhousie, which is driven by inflation, because the faculty there are saying, well, we've lost 16% purchasing power over the last 3 or 4 years, so that's what we want in our agreement to match, inflation, which makes sense on the surface. But Dalhousie says we can't do that. Oland's got a similar issue. You can't just magically create revenue, right, while someone is arbitrarily increasing your expenses. It just can't happen.
Ed, we have, obviously this water rate increase looming. We have this power rate increase looming. We have some of the highest taxes in the country.
We do.
How difficult is it to try and attract business to come here now?
Nova Scotia has attracted citizens in the last couple of years, as you know, but we've had some trouble attracting business, and part of it's our infrastructure. And then and it's easy to blame government for everything. Government at all 3 levels gets blamed for every issue out there. People even misappropriate which level of government is responsible for certain issues. But government is there to create an environment within which the citizens, including businesses, flourish. So it's up to business or up to government to set that environment. And if they don't set the proper environment for business to thrive, business is the engine of your economy. Okay, you have to have strong business. And if you don't have strong business, you don't have tax revenue. Therefore, you're held back in what you can do in things like education and healthcare. So what government's got to figure out here, because it is, it's an independent agency, but it is an arm of government. And we've got to figure out a way here that's fair, okay, to consumers, both consumer and commercial customers, that to work our way through this. And you just can't arbitrarily come in and say, we're going to increase your rates by, what are the numbers, 16.24%, and then the following year we're going to go 17.6%. That's insane. Sorry.
Right. And I would imagine, and I mean, we all can understand the volume of water that an Oland Brewery would do, and I can already feel the people typing the jokes about the watery beer. But that's neither here nor there. But this impacts a lot of different industries in our region.
Oh, absolutely. There are a lot of big water users out there, golf courses, some, but a lot of those have their own private wells, et cetera. But there are some big customers out there that when you look at their expenses, water is a big expense in their income statement, and they've got to figure out a way to keep it under control. And if arbitrarily this kind of information comes along, you go, okay, one sec, there's a timeout got to be called here, and there has to be some discussion. And on this issue, I know there's the utility board, and I know it's independent of government, supposedly, but I do think that it's up to the provincial government to really have a hard look at what's happening here, and especially in the cases of the big water users, or else we drive them away from our region.
Appreciate your time, Ed.
Anytime, Dan.
That is Ed McHugh, business professor, as we roll along here on the Thursday edition of the program. When we come back, the boss over at NSCC heading down the road, but he's not going that far. A conversation with Don Bureaux when we come back and listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. See you in a minute. Welcome back to this edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. Looks like the rain has passed on. Don't know if it's going to be enough to impact things on the water restriction level, but I will say that I think it was probably enough to water the vegetable patch and the baskets. If you have any baskets that are left, if they're like mine, they are not necessarily doing well these days. We're getting to the end of the season, right? Things are looking a little ragged in the flower beds, I will say. But those water restrictions do continue. The mandatory restrictions still in effect for those on the Lake Major water supply. That includes Dartmouth and Cole Harbour and Eastern Passage and up to Cherry Brook and into North Preston and over into the Burnside area. The voluntary water restrictions remain in effect for those on this side of the harbour, that being the Halifax side of the harbour. And that includes the peninsula and areas around there. So if you're not sure where you are or where your water restriction or what level of water restriction you're under, you can get all that information right there on the Halifax Water website. Connecting up very shortly here with the soon-to-be former president of the Nova Scotia Community College, NSCC, who has a new gig and will be stepping down there and moving into the new gig across the harbor, so to speak, in the not-too-distant future. So Vanessa is busy working the phones to try to make that happen. Still to come on the program today, we're going to take a look at a new gala that's coming to the region, and we're going to it's called the ROOTED Gala. It's a partnership with East Coast Credit Union, who we've had on the Ken Shea on the program here a couple of times. They're going to have Canadian country music artists there. Gord Bamford will be joining the show. It's a first of its kind. And we will also be talking a little bit about 4-H. Now, in the city, not many people may know what 4-H is, but those that are listening to us in the rural areas of the province know for sure what 4-H is, and that's part of what this ROOTED Gala has to deal with. Anyway, I don't want to give the whole thing away. That's still to come on the program today as well. And did you read the story on our website about the Halifax Convention Centre? Now, it's got a new designation. It's been named as one of the world's, if not the world's, greatest convention center. Now, it's very interesting to me because I get a chance to see some of the analytics on the stories that we post on the City News Halifax website. This story did really well because there was some interesting. Do you remember how maligned the convention center was? Do you remember when it was being built, all of the problems and like, oh, what are you doing building this thing here? You're never going to get conventions here. They're going to go to Las Vegas or they're going to go to Orlando or wherever they are. But apparently, this new organization has named this as one of the best, if not the best, convention center in the world. So we're going to dig a little bit into that here on the program. I hope that you can join us as well. As we're waiting for our next guest, a couple of emails. Of course, we had a very good, I would say, open hour today. A good debate surrounding some of the issues, including the ongoing tragedy there in the United States with Charlie Kirk. A couple of emails to pass along to you. This one comes to me from Mark. It says, it's September 11th. Right. It's the world is hurting. He says, go out, do something nice for a stranger today and help us heal. It's September 11th, tomorrow. Next year is going to be a big anniversary for September 11th, right? This is the 24th anniversary today. Next year will be the 25th, a quarter century since that happened. It feels, for those of us that were around during that time, that it was just yesterday. I was on the air that day. I wasn't here. I was in Ontario, and I remember it as if it just happened last week. It was just an absolutely bizarre time. I think I mentioned it off the top of the program today. And lots of course, tragedy happened there. Lots of people lost their lives. Lots of people continue to lose their lives. I think I heard a story this morning that said that over 400 firefighters have been added to that list as the years go on, who have passed away from illnesses that they contracted during September 11th in New York City. Just an absolute tragic event there, of course, in New York and at the Pentagon. I think I said White House earlier. That would have been a mistake. At the Pentagon and, of course, above that field in Pennsylvania. And, of course, the world changing as a result of that. But, again, that stuff will never leave my mind. And I know it won't leave your mind. But also some of the good things that came out of 9/11, and that, of course, was just the absolute generosity of the people that live around here and opening up their homes and cooking and doing all kinds of things for those that were stranded. It is a gold star moment for Atlantic Canada. The boss over at NSCC is getting ready to head down the road, but he's not going that far. Please welcome to the program Don Bureaux. Don, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you today?
I am well, sir. You are getting ready to wind things up over at NSCC. Tell me about your career at the college and what it's meant to you thus far.
It has been a wonderful journey. I joined the college almost 22 years ago, and then for the past 15, I've had the privilege of being the president of, quite frankly, I think one of the gems in Canada, the Nova Scotia Community College, and I'm leaving at a time when the college is strong, and I'm very proud of what we've been able to accomplish.
Is this? Are you leaving because of this opportunity, or is it time for a change, or is it a combination of both?
I think it'd be a combination of both. Having been in this position, in this chair for 15 years, I leave with a great sense of accomplishment. I think the Nova Scotia Community College is embedded in the communities that we serve in such a profound way. And I see a great opportunity to work with the business community, like I have been in this role. And the Chamber is an exciting, dynamic organization that had a strong pull, shall we say.
And that, of course, when you take up the new role as president and CEO of the Halifax Chamber of Commerce, that's got to be an exciting road ahead for you.
It is very exciting. 2,000 members. It's an opportunity for that wonderful organization that, if you can believe, it's been around. Its roots go back to 1750. And I think there's never been a time that's more important when our population needs a strong and vibrant business community, which is exactly what we have here in Halifax, and it's time to take it to the next level. And I'm excited to be part of that.
Don, what do you think the big challenges are for members of the Chamber of Commerce for businesses here in Halifax and the region?
Yeah, what a great question. I think it would be a surprise to nobody that the world is certainly a different place now. The geopolitical forces around the world are impacting our business community here in Nova Scotia, which has really brought with it a sense of patriotism in the country. And I think there's been a wake-up call to just how important our business community is in terms of the lives of our citizens. So I think there's a need to continue to focus on removing barriers to business success. I think there's a need for us to recognize that interprovincial trade in our country is now more important, to take a hard look at that, to open up our domestic markets to local business. And then the third thing is, I think that we recognize that there's an opportunity globally for our businesses here in Halifax who can certainly compete with the best in the world.
Part of your job, of course, advocate for your members at various levels, municipal and provincial, and even at the federal level. Don, we know that there's some big files coming down the pipe. We talked about the water increase today. We talked about power rates. We talked about high taxes. Those all on the top of your agenda?
Yeah, those are things I'll have to sit down and work with our government partners on to make sure that the voice of our business community is heard. My experience in the past of working with all levels of government is a relationship that's based on openness and honesty and trust is something that I see the Chamber has focused on. I want to continue that. Look, there's no doubt that the business community in our area here has been thriving, but there's so much more. There's so much more that we need to do to help with that thriving to continue. And I'll be focused on that in my new role, working with our government partners to make sure that all conditions are in place for a thriving business community.
When's your last day at the college?
Last day is February 27th. So I'm here for another 5.5, 6 months. And it's pedal to the metal. I've gotten direction from our board at the college to continue with the great work that we're doing. And again, I'm proud to be leaving a very strong organization, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it accomplishes in the future.
Don, with your old hat on, wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask how things are at NSCC. How are you doing enrollment-wise this year?
Yeah, great question. We've just begun a brand new academic year. Thrilled to be back at it, if you will. Enrollment looks strong. There's no doubt that our international student numbers across the country at all post-secondary institutions continue to kind of get rebalanced with the federal government's decision to cap international student study permits. But beyond that, there's a strong domestic demand. Our provincial government partners have been working very hard to make sure the health industry, the trade sector has the skilled workforce that they need. So with all that in mind, I'm feeling positive that when we report our numbers at the end of September, they'll be strong.
Don, appreciate your time, and I know you've been a friend of this program in your current role, and I'm sure that will continue in your new role.
I look forward to it. Have a wonderful day, and thanks again for your interest.
That is Don Bureaux. He is currently the boss over at NSCC, but at the end of February, will leave that role and move into his new role as the president and CEO of the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. Blake's going to join us here in a moment. He's going to update us on what's going on in the news. On the other side of it, can you believe it? The Halifax Convention Centre has been named the world's greatest. We'll dig into that when we come back. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand. We are back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand. Hope you're having a fantastic day out there as we roll along here and we get closer. The Friday Eve show's almost over. It's an interesting topic of discussion, and I think I mentioned it earlier in the hour that this story got posted onto our website a few days ago, and taking a look sort of at the analytics with regards to the story, it did really well because I think there's a lot of interest in it. And that, of course, is the Halifax Convention Centre, which I will say got a lot of press, to put it politely, when it was being built and in the lead up to it being approved and then built and during the construction and stuff. But the Halifax Convention Centre has been named the world's greatest convention centre by the acclaimed TV program World's Greatest. And very, very pleased to welcome to the show to tell us a little bit about what all this means. And if they're going to get a great big trophy to hang out in the front of the lobby of the Convention Centre, Executive Vice President of Strategy and Business Development at Events East Group, that's Suzanne Fougere, and she joins me on the phone. Suzanne, how are you?
I'm wonderful, Dan. How are you?
Good. Big trophy coming to sit in the trophy case out front?
I wish it came with a trophy. Unfortunately, it doesn't. It comes with a lovely TV spot, but no trophy for the trophy case, unfortunately.
Right. So this was a television show that gave you this crown. So I would imagine that being that it is a television show, that there's going to be some TV event that's going to happen surrounding this.
That's right, yeah. So it's a show that airs on Bloomberg Network, and the episode actually aired in the United States last week, and it will air in Canada again on September 13th, so coming up this week. And it's a program that features, the top brands, different products, different services from around the world, and they hunt down who they see doing great work in their community and in their industry, and then they profile those businesses, and we were fortunate enough to be selected for that.
And they brought a big camera crew up here, and what was filming like? It must have been pretty exciting.
It was a great day, yeah. So they were here on site in Halifax in June, and we spent a full day with them at the Halifax Convention Centre. They filmed a lot of what I would call, the back of house, so what you see that goes into preparing the meals, getting the building ready. And they shot while we were hosting a local convention called H2O, which features the top in oceans research in the region. So that's kind of the backdrop that you see featured during the episode. And in addition to many people from our team that are featured, we were also joined by our premier, our mayor, as well as our minister, who are all amazing supporters and investors in the convention center. And it's just something that profiles the story of the convention center, what we do that makes ourselves so special. And it's a great profile of Halifax and Nova Scotia.
And, trophies aside, this is important because we all know that you're all in the business of trying to attract new conventions to come to the convention center and by extension HRM. How important is marketing like this?
It's a really great help. So we have a mandate to attract national and international conventions to the region, and all of our marketing and sales efforts are focused on those conference planners that are located in national and international markets. So any chance that we get for this kind of profile in front of those audiences, and especially the kind of profile that showcases not only the convention center and what we do to invest in the guest experience, but all the things that make Halifax and Nova Scotia a great destination. We're going to take those opportunities as often as we can, and this is a great way for us to showcase our province to an international audience.
You also got some other props too, right? Halifax was named, was it the 4th International Congress and Convention Association's rankings in Canada?
That's right. So ICA, which is the International Association of Congress and Convention Centers, they rank cities around the world for the number of international conventions that they attract to the region. And it's an international listing that's released every year. And this past year, Halifax ranked 4th, only behind Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver, who are obviously much larger markets with much larger venues than we have. But we were really proud of that recognition as well. And it's another great signal to those international planners that we're marketing to that Halifax has a great venue, has everything that they're looking for, and it's a destination where you want to be hosting events.
Suzanne, looking at your calendar, the fall is, need I say, busy? You've got lots of stuff on the go.
We do. We have, between September and December, more than 75 events, and we're kicking into high gear, so to speak, right now. A few that I'll highlight for you, some that we're extremely proud of and close to, DevSec Atlantic, which is one of the largest defense shows in Canada. And it was actually started by a local planner here in Halifax, and it's grown to a national, international level. That's coming up at the end of this month. We, of course, will welcome back HalCon in November, and everybody loves HalCon and seeing our streets animated with all of those costumes and all those guests. We've got great gala dinners coming up, including a fundraiser for the Mi'kmaq Friendship Center in the fall. And we'll host as well 45 national and international conventions in the venue throughout the year. And the convention center is also the site for the Patch, which is part of the Canadian curling trials coming up here in November.
I can't tell you how excited I am about that event. That's going to be a lot of fun.
It is. It's going to be a great event. That's going to be an amazing 2 weeks in downtown for both Scotiabank Centre and the Convention Centre. So we're very excited to be welcoming that.
So busy schedule, but I would imagine you're always looking for more interesting and fun events to come to the city.
We are. We're always out there marketing the destination with our partners at Discover Halifax as well, always looking for new events. And we love to see a full building. And we've had a really successful few years, and we're just really excited that this year that momentum's continuing, and we've got a great diversity of events across all different kinds of sectors coming to the city and the province. And of course, what's most important of that is we drive those visitors into our downtown across our province, and they spend money in those restaurants, in the bars, in our hotels, and we love seeing our streets full of convention delegates.
Suzanne, all the best, and now you can call yourselves one of the world's greatest.
Okay, I'll use that sometime. I'll see where it comes in handy.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for the opportunity.
That is Suzanne Fougere from the Halifax Convention Centre, named by this television program as the world's greatest convention center. And there are a ton of events coming here between now and the end of the year. And I cannot, as I said to Suzanne, I cannot tell you how excited we all should be that this the curling trials are coming to Halifax. This is the event that professional, can I call them that? I guess I can now. Professional curlers have been vying for. They compete for 4 years to get enough points to get invited to win the right events, to get invited to come and take in the trials. And that tournament will select the curling squads that will represent Canada at the Olympic Games. If you remember back 20 years, can you believe it's been 20 years? Can you remember back 20 years ago when a very young, hope he's listening, a very young Brad Gushu was down there with a couple of other youngsters and that not-so-youngster fella, Russ Howard, and won the event, and then went to Italy and won the gold. So it's full circle for the curling trials, Canadian curling trials here in HRM. I'm very much looking forward to it, and having the patch, which is the social end of things. Is that the right way to say that? Anyway, the patch is at the Convention Centre this year, which will be a welcome and new edition where it was 20 years ago. And Scotiabank will, of course, be rocking. It's a pun, I know, but it will be rocking during the trials. We're going to stop, take another break here on the program. When we come back, I mentioned it earlier, a new event is coming to our part of the world. It's kind of going to mix country and farming with a gala. It's a unique event. It's called Rooted, and we'll explain what it means when we come back. You are listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. We're back in minutes.